The words "I've decided to start a new life without you" floated through the elegant restaurant like shattered glass. Richard Hale, my husband of 29 years, stood with his champagne glass half raised, mid-toast for our daughter Lena's graduation, yet fully committed to detonating our marriage in front of 50 witnesses. Forks froze above plates. Whispered conversations died mid-sentence. Faces turned toward us with hungry curiosity, waiting for the breakdown everyone expected from the humiliated wife. But I, Amaya Ellington Hale, age 54, simply smiled. "Congratulations on your honesty," I said, my voice calm enough to chill wine. For nearly 3 decades, I had perfected the role of supportive wife and devoted mother. I paused my ambitions repeatedly, through Richard's failed business ventures, career detours, and endless self-reinvention phases. Meanwhile, I raised Lena, the brilliant young woman seated beside me, still wearing her graduation cap, eyes wide with horror. At the far end of the room sat Tessa Morgan, Richard's younger girlfriend, someone I had once welcomed into our home as a friend. She shifted uncomfortably, fully aware the spotlight was sliding her way. The betrayal burned, but I refused to give anyone the spectacle they wanted. Instead, I set a cream-colored envelope beside Richard's plate. "What's this?" he asked, confidence wavering. "Something for you to read later." I kissed Lena's cheek. "This day is still about you, sweetheart." Then I stood, addressed the room politely, and walked out with my dignity intact. The heavy door thudded shut behind me, muting the rising whispers. Outside, the summer heat of Savannah wrapped around me. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. Behind me, Richard burst through the door. "Maya. What the hell is this?" I kept walking, a small smile tugging at my lips. The envelope held the beginning of my revenge. Richard had always called himself the visionary of our marriage, but it was I, Maya Ellington Hale, who kept our lives running with quiet precision. While he drifted from one bold idea to another, I held the foundation steady. I saved for Lena's education while he invested in a friend's doomed restaurant. I worked overtime at Meridian Financial when he quit his stable job to pursue artisan woodworking, a passion that lasted exactly 6 months. My own dream, launching a financial consultancy for women, was always filed under someday. Someday after Lena graduated. Someday after Richard settled. Someday after life finally stopped demanding that I clean up his messes. But 3 months ago, everything changed. I noticed small discrepancies in our joint accounts, tiny transfers to an unfamiliar number. To anyone else, they might have looked accidental. To me, after years managing our household finances, they were glaring red flags. I didn't confront Richard immediately. Something inside me whispered, "Wait. Watch." So I did. What I found was far worse than I imagined. Richard had been siphoning money for almost a year, funneling it into a private account. He had taken Tessa to high-end restaurants, purchased jewelry for her, and even toured beachfront condos, all while lecturing me about tightening our budget. And then came the text messages. Plans for a new life. Promises made to Tessa. Mocking comments about how I trusted him blindly. And their carefully timed escape, the day after Lena's graduation, the day he intended to humiliate me publicly. What Richard didn't know was that I had never been blind. I had simply been patient. I traced every transfer, saved every message, consulted attorneys quietly, and built a case he could never escape. And the prenuptial agreement he once insisted on, back when I had the family money, contained a fidelity clause he clearly forgot. A clause that would become his downfall. The envelope he clutched at the restaurant contained the first taste of consequences. He had planned his exit carefully. But I had planned mine better. Richard's silence at the restaurant wasn't shock, it was realization. The kind a man experiences when every lie he's balanced on finally collapses under its own weight. He kept looking at the envelope as if it might magically rewrite itself. But documents don't lie. People do. 3 days earlier, I had finalized the last step of my plan. My attorney, Dr. Evelyn Cross, a calm, razor-sharp woman with the patience of a surgeon, reviewed everything: the transfers, the messages, the condo reservation Richard had foolishly put under his own name, and the bracelet he bought Tessa using our joint account. Each detail strengthened the case. Each detail tightened the noose he didn't even know he was wearing. "You've built this perfectly," she had said, tapping the fidelity clause in the prenup. "Now you just need the right moment to present it." That moment was the graduation dinner, Richard's chosen battlefield. He believed he would stand there, deliver some theatrical speech about personal growth, and walk away with the dignity of a man escaping an unfulfilling marriage. But instead, he received legal notice of infidelity, asset forfeiture, and an immediate freeze on the private account he thought was hidden. When the waiter placed the wine on our table, I watched Richard's hand tremble. He attempted a smile, the same polite, performative smile he used when lying. "What is this?" he asked quietly. "Your future," I replied. He opened the envelope. His eyes scanned the pages quickly, then again, slower. His jaw tightened. I saw the precise moment he realized what the clause meant: he would lose the house, the investment accounts under my name, even his claim to half of my inheritance, because cheating nullified every benefit he expected to walk away with. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I simply waited. Across the room, Lena laughed with her friends, unaware that the life she knew was shifting. Not falling apart, just rearranging. Richard finally looked up at me. "Maya, we can talk about this." But he was wrong. We were long past talking. We were at consequences. The moment Richard whispered, "We can talk about this," something inside me settled into a calm I hadn't felt in years. Not relief, certainty. I had spent too long explaining, negotiating, compromising. Talking had been my prison. Now, silence was my freedom. "I've already talked," I said. "To the people who matter." He flinched, realizing exactly what that meant. Lawyers. Banks. Courts. Every institution that once saw us as a united front now understood we stood on opposite sides. Richard leaned back, exhaling shakily. "Maya, you blindsided me." The irony almost made me laugh. This man, who had built an entire secret life behind my back, was offended that I hadn't warned him of his own consequences. But I didn't react. I had learned long ago that silence unnerved him more than anger. Instead, I watched him try to regain control the way he always did. He straightened his shirt, rehearsed his calm expression, and softened his voice as if we were simply navigating a minor disagreement. "You can't honestly think you'll win everything." "I don't need to think," I said. "I know." His confidence wavered, but pride pushed him forward. "Tessa isn't what you think." I was confused. Lost. We had a connection, but it wasn't serious. I was going to end it. "Yesterday?" I asked. "Or after your beachfront condo was finalized?" His mouth snapped shut. The waiter returned, filling our glasses without sensing the tension. Richard's eyes followed him, desperate for a momentary distraction. But once we were alone again, he whispered, "If this gets out, my reputation will finally match your behavior," I said. For the first time, his mask cracked. He wasn't angry. He was afraid. And fear made him honest. "Maya, please. I can fix this. I can make things right." But he couldn't fix what he didn't understand. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. The life I was about to build didn't include him, and for the first time, he knew it. Richard's plea hung in the air, trembling between desperation and denial. For years, that tone had been my cue to soften, to rescue him from the consequences he created. But not this time. His apologies felt like rehearsed lines from a script he had used on every woman who ever expected more from him. I folded my napkin slowly, giving him time to realize that nothing he said would shift what was already in motion. Richard, I said quietly, I'm not angry anymore. I'm done. That word, done, hit him harder than any accusation. Anger he could fight. Disappointment he could manipulate. But finality. He had no defense for that. His eyes darted around the room, searching for some angle he could use. Think about Lena, he said urgently. She'll be devastated if our marriage falls apart like this. I held his gaze. Lena will be fine. What devastates children is watching their mother be worn down year after year. He swallowed hard. For the first time, the truth wasn't something I whispered to myself at 2 a.m. It was out loud. Real. Immovable. I stood, placing my purse over my shoulder. He reached out instinctively, his fingers wrapping around my wrist, not forceful, but pleading. Don't leave like this. We can figure something out. I looked down at his hand. Richard, everything is already figured out. He let go. I walked toward Lena's table. Her face lit up when she saw me approaching, all youth and laughter and possibility. She deserved a mother who lived fully, not one who merely endured. When she leaned in to hug me, I caught Richard's reflection in the restaurant's mirrored wall, alone, trapped not by me, but by his own choices. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, signatures, and the unraveling of a life that had ended long before tonight. But as I stepped outside into the warm evening air, one thing was clear. This wasn't an ending for me. It was the beginning of everything I had postponed. The next morning arrived with an unfamiliar quiet, no rushed alarms, no forced pleasantries over burnt coffee, no Richard pacing the kitchen rehearsing excuses for why he couldn't manage even the smallest responsibilities. The house felt lighter, as if it had finally exhaled after years of holding its breath. I brewed my tea and opened the folder where Evelyn Cross had organized every document in precise order. Financial statements, recorded transfers, screenshots of messages, the prenup, and the formal petition for dissolution of marriage. Everything was prepared, tidy, controlled, undeniable. At 9 a.m. sharp, my phone buzzed. It was Evelyn. Are you ready? She asked. Yes. Richard's attorney requested a meeting. He wants to talk before things escalate. Let them. Her pause told me she approved. Good. You hold the leverage. Don't forget that. I didn't plan to. By afternoon, Richard was blowing up my phone, missed calls, texts alternating between remorseful and furious. We can work this out. You're being irrational. Don't do this to us. You don't understand what you're destroying. But I understood perfectly. I was destroying the version of myself who tolerated less than she deserved. Around 6, the doorbell rang. I already knew who it was. Richard stood outside, his hair uncombed, his shirt wrinkled, the confidence he once carried like armor nowhere in sight. For a brief second, I saw the man I had married, charming, hopeful, brimming with promises he never had the discipline to keep. Maya, please, he said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. We can fix this. I made mistakes. Mistakes stop when you stop repeating them, I said. He rubbed his face. Just tell me what you want. I want my life back. He froze, as if the simplicity of the answer wounded him more than anger ever could. And Richard, I added softly, you don't get to be part of that life anymore. His eyes filled with a panic I had never seen, not because he loved me, but because he finally understood he had lost control. And for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt free. Richard stood in the doorway as if the threshold itself could save him. For years, he had relied on charm, excuses, and the fragile hope that I would bend just enough to keep him comfortable. But the woman standing before him now was not the wife he remembered. She was someone rebuilt, stronger, clearer, and unwilling to shrink ever again. Maya, don't do this, he whispered. We've spent years together. That has to mean something. It does, I said. It means I learned exactly who you are. For a moment, anger flashed in his eyes, but it burned out quickly, replaced by desperation. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry. Fine, I'm sorry. I messed up, I was stupid, I wasn't thinking. You were thinking, I corrected. Just not about us. The truth hit him harder than any accusation could. He sank onto the edge of the sofa, burying his face in his hands. So that's it. You won't even give me a chance to explain. I gave you years of chances, I said gently. You used them on someone else. Silence settled between us. Heavy. Unavoidable. Finally, he stood, straightening his shoulders as if bracing for impact. You're really going through with this? I already have. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The realization washed over him slowly, my mind wasn't changing. The papers were filed, the accounts were frozen, the prenup enforced. His future had already shifted, and nothing he said could pull it back. When he finally walked out, he didn't slam the door. He closed it quietly, like a man leaving a place he knew he had no right to return to. I stood alone in the stillness, waiting for the ache to come. But instead, a strange, steady warmth filled me. Not joy. Not triumph. Peace. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel like a cage, it felt like mine. Tomorrow, I would begin rebuilding the life I once postponed. Not for Richard. Not even for Lena. For me. And this time, nothing would hold me back.